25 years. 25 years since I first entered the world of survival horror, playing either Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine, members of Stars, and one of the most memorable PlayStation 1 games ever known. I'm talking about Biohazard, or better known as Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil. As you can see here, this is the North American cover art. And as of this recording, it's actually the Japanese version's release date, March 22 in Japan. So, happy anniversary, Resident Evil 1. Brings back so many memories listening to that save music theme, which you can hear right there. It's playing in my PlayStation 4. There was a Resident Evil 20th anniversary theme that was released 5 years ago, so I'm using that as my PlayStation 4 theme. Of course, Resident Evil 1 isn't only celebrating its 25th anniversary. It's the entire franchise. The entire franchise started with this. And of course, we have our favorites. Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 3 make up the original trilogy of PlayStation 1 games. But eventually it would expand to the Sega Dreamcast with Resident Evil Code Veronica, and the Nintendo GameCube got Resident Evil 0, the Resident Evil Remake, which actually celebrates its 19th anniversary on this same date, March 22, 2002, that's when it was released, and Resident Evil 4, which was supposed to be a Nintendo GameCube exclusive but eventually made its way to the PlayStation 2 and other platforms. And then Resident Evil would expand from there and get many more sequels, many more spin-offs, live-action movies, which weren't really faithful to the games, but that'll be corrected this year, hopefully, fingers crossed, with the new movie reboot called Welcome to Raccoon City. It's a big celebration for all things Resident Evil, and of course I had to make this tribute to my fandom as a Resident Evil guy, a guy who actually bought a PlayStation 1 because of that damn game, this game. And well, yeah, this is the director's cut, one of my favorite re-releases of Resident Evil, which convinced me to get a PlayStation 1 along with Street Fighter Alpha and Street Fighter Alpha 2. So when I saw my cousin play the original Resident Evil non-director's cut in his PlayStation, automatically got hooked, wanted to play it on my own. I could only go to video game store rentals to play it during the weekends, so I had to borrow the store's memory card and play that game using what was coming out early on in the internet back then. Of course, we all know game facts and text-based guides, so as a kid, wow, Resident Evil just put that zombie-loving horror guy in me into a world where I could actually control a character, be terrified if something would come out of the corner, what would I do if I lose ammo, because it wasn't about guns a-blazing, it was about survival horror. And that means using your brain, solving puzzles, and strategizing. So you can't carry everything. You only have limited inventory space, especially for Chris. Chris can take more damage, and he has limited inventory space, while Jill has more inventory space, but she has limited health. Of course, there's also Rebecca Chambers, who supported Chris Redfield in this scenario, and what is this? Barry Burton in Jill's scenario. Those were awesome times. Playing that, and of course, Albert Wesker. Stars Captain, who turned out to be the traitor. Either way, whatever you play, these are two masterpieces. Most of the people today would recommend the Resident Evil Remake, which was re-released as the Resident Evil HD Remaster, which you can easily find for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, if you still have that system, Xbox 360, that too, Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch. Yes, they released a portable version for the Switch. So this is my PlayStation 3 Collector's Edition, and back there you can see the map of the Spencer Mansion where the game takes place. So the layouts of the first floor and second floor of that mansion were secret experiments were being conducted by the corporation that's the antagonist of the series, Umbrella Corp. They're the ones who developed the T virus and all of those biological weapons and monsters that became staples of the series. And of course, the T virus turns humans into zombies. How Resident Evil began life, though, was to become a remake of the Nintendo's or the Famicom's game, for that matter, Sweet Home. That was a Japanese video game which was based on a series where a group of people were stuck in a mansion filled with ghosts and monsters. So when Shinji Mikami was tasked with directing a remake of that, eventually it turned into something else. It turned into this, Biohazard, aka Resident Evil. So they took inspiration also from The Shining, George A. Romero's zombie movies, specifically Night of the Living Dead. That's why there are zombies in this game. And Dawn of the Dead, because of the cops. And eventually, Leon S. Kennedy would be a nod to that in Resident Evil 2. Dawn of the Dead, the original one from the late 1970s. And it also took inspiration from Alone in the Dark, another third-person pre-rendered background sequence game where it was tank-like controls and it was either fight or flight depending on your ammo and inventory, and solving puzzles, of course. So that was a combination of all of those elements becoming this game, Resident Evil. And man, we're going to be getting a new Resident Evil game in the coming months with Resident Evil Village. That's going to be the culmination of a story that began with Resident Evil 7, actually, a couple of years ago. Ethan Winters returns as the protagonist, and Chris Redfield, of course. The main guy from this game started here, became muscle-bound in Resident Evil 5, also appeared in Resident Evil 6, and reappeared in Resident Evil 7, and he's there. Oh, of course, Resident Evil Code Veronica with his sister, Claire Redfield, one of the protagonists of Resident Evil 2. So, man, just thinking about my road with Resident Evil, becoming a lifelong fan, and even cosplaying the Code Veronica version of Chris Redfield, and hearing that save music, wow. I'm really happy to be a fan for 2.5 decades, and so have been a lot of other fans around the world who've been celebrating. Just go to Twitter, go to social media, type REBH Fun. That stands for Resident Evil Biohazard Fun. And the new hashtag now for the 25th anniversary is REBH25th. So if you're using social media, type that. I'm going to be using that when I post this video. This retrospective nostalgia memory lane video paying tribute to 2.5 decades of Resident Evil / Biohazard. Wow, these games. Of course, I have Biohazard's other sequels too for the PS1. You just can't beat the PS1. That's where everything starts and you play. Even then, even after that, when you play the new remastered game for the newer consoles, it's a different experience playing in the PS1. But still, if you have a modern console, you can pick this up too. Resident Evil Origins Collection, featuring the prequel Resident Evil 0 with Rebecca Chambers and Billy Cohen, and of course, Chris and Jill, the original heroes of the original Resident Evil. So before we end, I'd like to say happy anniversary, Resident Evil fandom. We made it 2.5 decades. In fact, I can't wait for Resident Evil Village. There's a Resident Evil showcase next month from Capcom, so we'll be learning more about the celebration, more stuff about Resident Evil. There's even a Resident Evil multiplayer game that will be bundled along with Resident Evil Village. I don't know if I'm going to play that. I'm just after the single player experience rather. And that's always been the case with Resident Evil games. So, thanks for watching, guys. Do follow me in social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, TIMZSTER. I'm a member of STARS. I'm wearing the shirt in honor of these awesome games. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Happy, happy, happy anniversary, Resident Evil 1. I can't believe you're 25 years. 25 long years. That was the original intro sequence of Biohazard. The original. Barry Burton. Happy 25 years, Resident Evil. And Cool Shades guy.